Rashawn, we're doing something different on this episode of Closed Circuit, aren't we?
What's that, JT?
Oh, well, thanks for asking. What we're doing is we don't have webcams because webcams are overrated
They're too future and
and
virus
they require
prone.
internet connections that some of us may not have at this time.
It's not work. Oh, dude, outside there's like a dog. It's like a black lab, and it's holding a stuffed animal while the lady's walking him.
Oh,
Oh,
shut the
it's
fuck
so
up.
cute.
Welcome,
It's so
everyone,
cute.
to the fourth episode of Closed Circuit. I am one half of the problem, JT, aka the Pinko Panda, and this time, instead of being to my left, right, and center, he is in the ether.
I was gonna say that.
It is the other half of the problem, Rashawn, aka Sober East. Now,
Thank you, thank you.
this podcast is probably going to be, I think, so we've kind of talked about some different ideas. Like, I think everyone's noticed that we've gone over the hour point most of the time with
Yeah,
our podcast. I mean, honestly, for us, as long as we get the point across, I like even if it's like a 35-minute podcast, I think that's fine. You know what I mean? Like
I think so.
anywhere from like 35 to lifetime. But you also want
Yeah.
to know what's interesting about this episode, Rashawn?
What is that?
It's been a month since we started this.
Has it?
This is the fourth episode. We do it every week for
Oh
four
shit,
weeks.
that's true.
It's been a month.
My concept of time is just so skewed to where I don't even. I've just been waking up at this point.
Yeah, I feel that. Another thing that Rashawn and I literally just talked about like 30 seconds before I hit the record button is we are going to I'm tired, man. We are going to
Good.
have a little display in the bottom right, left, top, left, right, middle corner. Who
One of
knows?
those screen
We'll
parts
figure it out.
somewhere on your
Of
viewing screen.
me playing video games because everyone in this day and age is OCD and needs something to look at. So look at me.
We'll play some games. We'll play some new games, some old games, some video games, some board
Game
games.
of life.
Yeah, we got your games. You get to watch us play some games.
Now, kind of off of the joking, beated path, whatever words here. We did want to talk about when it occurred. When the two events occurred, we debated recording this podcast early, but we pushed off to our normal recording time. The two incidents that bring video games and violence together, which
Sadly.
is, you know, as everyone knows, that can be incredibly controversial. Um, I don't really know which one we should touch on. I guess should we just go from like the one that happened, like I guess further in the past compared, the one
Uh,
that's older.
sure. Why not? Yeah, you're gonna have to give me like a bit of like a refresher on that one because right now the one I'm focused on is the recent one. That's the
Okay,
one I
so both of
off top.
these equally piss me the fuck off. Um, like high key piss me the fuck off, which is
Oh
why
yeah, naturally.
we are, which is why pretty much when the first one happened, then just so happened the second case happened. Um, that is why we decided that this was going to be the topic of discussion because this shit is just not cool. Both are not cool. Regardless, violence in general like this is not cool. It doesn't matter if it's tied to video games or not.
Oh yeah,
But
it's just senseless killing.
it's bullshit. It's absolutely bullshit. The first one occurred on, I believe it was Sunday. Let me just get up the dates. I know the events. I don't really know the date that it occurred. Just want to make sure I
And
have all the dates right.
I think I'm remembering which one you're talking about now concerning like Steam.
Okay, so yeah, so I was right. It occurred on August 26th. We are recording this podcast, by the way, on the 29th of August. So we are a couple days late on the actual coverage of it. Obviously, the recording will go up probably the 2nd of August, depending. This one's going to be really easy to cut, obviously, because it's just going to be you guys staring at the closed circuit logo with our beautiful logos and names in there with episode 4 in the bottom, because we're a clean design podcast
Yeah.
here. So who knows, maybe I'll upload this sooner rather than later. But on August 26th, the YouTube star McSKILLET, if you don't know who McSKILLET is, he made his fame off of CSGO. If you don't know what CSGO is, it is Counter-Strike Global Initiative. It is essentially a
Initiative.
global operations. I haven't played it in so long, dude.
Yeah, yeah. Almost certain.
Man, now I'm getting my facts wrong, huh? It's Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Dude, I haven't played Counter-Strike in a year. When was the last time you played it?
I
Wait, that's a
feel like
lie. Didn't we play it like 6 months ago? Maybe.
we played it for like all of 15 minutes because I remember we jumped
We
on and we
both
were
got
like, "Damn,
pissed off.
th this is ass," and then we killed our teammates and then cursed them out over microphone and then left, promptly left and played a different game.
Now, if you don't know what CS:GO is, it's essentially a 5-on-5 shooting game. It's a first-person shooter where you have the terrorists and you have the counter-terrorists. And well, this is the competitive side of things. Just to kind of lay down the basic rules of that. Terrorists are going to plant the bomb at one of two objectives. The counter-terrorists have to either eliminate all of the terrorists or defuse the bomb if it's planted. Okay. Now, CS:GO isn't exactly famous because of its gameplay. Yes, there is a huge esports, huge money behind it. What really made it gigantic when it took off was its cases. Now, you get these cases over time, or you can buy them from anywhere from 4 to 30 cents on the Steam marketplace. And then you buy
Mhm.
a key for that case for $2.49 for a chance at usually, I think there's like 10 to 12 skins,
Oh
with
yeah,
the
yeah.
12th being this knife that can literally cost anywhere from $100 to $1,000. Okay. um
Instant return on investment. We're
yes,
talking.
if you're selling it. Now, some people just want to collect this shit. I mean, like, let's be honest. Excuse me. When I was a freshman in college, I got a knife in a case. I could have sold it there and then for like $200. I ended up selling it a month ago for like $75, just so I could get another game and and have enough money to give this little shit
Whee!
the other game, same game, just two copies. Regardless, um, it was a booming business, and then what came out of the skins is these gambling sites where you would put a skin in, or you would put money in, and into this big pot that other people are putting shit into, and then you would win that pot, and then you go, and then of course it's gambling, so some people would get hooked, and there was this whole thing about like getting around gambling laws. You had youth gambling, all this stuff that is not okay in a casino was happening online because you couldn't really age gate this shit.
Of course, of course.
So back to McSKILLET, he ran a CS:GO lottery site essentially. Okay.
And let me just say that there's so many duplicates out there, and I feel like there's like more and more rising as like people get access to Counter-Strike because it's like anybody can run it, honestly.
Yep.
And even I've been tempted to like play or use some of these gambling sites because it's just like I myself want to try and like strike up a fortune on Counter-Strike. Like that's one of the main reasons why I played it, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to just luck out on something in a case, even if it was like $20.
Yeah.
Hell, that's $20 that I didn't have, and then I could just buy something else with it.
So, and
So
before
many things
before
tempting.
we, I guess, continue on to the side of like McSkillet and what he did, um, there is no motive that has officially been released. They think it's going to take months to find an official motive, but there's a pretty clear cut one that hasn't just been officially announced, but a lot of people are assuming this. Once again, Rashawn and I are not like, investigators or anything like this. This is our opinions. We are just
Naturally, yeah.
notifying all this stuff, in our side of it. Um, but he would essentially use these YouTube videos, his YouTube channel, which had almost 1 million subscribers, to market these skins. Okay, and then you would go on and you would gamble for them. Okay, but it got shut down. Okay, his whole operation got shut down. Um, I'm just reading here that I believe it was Steam actually confiscated $200,000 worth of these virtual skins. Okay, and when I say virtual skins here, I'm talking like you can go and Google like a CS:GO skin. It is a color difference, a design difference of a virtual gun that you are using
Oh
in
yeah.
game. It
I
is
mean, I guess
no.
we could maybe even put it in like just how do I describe it? It's like yeah, I mean just like a modern warfare skin or any other Call of Duty game for that matter, but you pay money for it instead of like earning it,
Mhm,
and
exactly.
it's silly.
Yeah. um. So McSkillet had seen his revenue and just everything monetary from YouTube declining, steep decline when this whole thing got. There was a bunch of other cases that went down about this. Um, certain YouTubers got slammed hard because they were found to be running sites that they would be advertising and not, clarifying that they were whole 9 yards. A whole bunch of things happened because of this.
Yeah.
Um, so he was 18, by the way. He is 18 years old. Was 18 years old at the time of his
Hmm.
death. Um, no one knows exactly why he did it, but he had actually um, he had driven into a middle school like gate that he saw. It had the word Steam on it. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Steam is owned by Valve, who makes CS:GO, who were responsible for taking away this whole being able to sell these skins and all this stuff. Um, it's just kind of like it just goes back to that where one of these things, a young kid essentially couldn't take the fact that his revenue was decreasing because essentially what he was doing was illegal, and it was only a matter of time before something like this, like before it was taken down, but it was taken down. um
Yeah, and that's one of my big things that I can't seem to wrap my head around. It's like, don't you think that he would have been doing this with the expectation of it eventually being shut down?
I
Because
mean,
it's just like,
you gotta know at some point, right? Like,
yeah, because every operation like that, of course, it has the potential for it to go down. Like you can find whatever sort of like
and
technicalities or
to put it in
loopholes that you
perspective, right?
want.
When was this
Yeah.
occurring? When was CS:GO like? Because now we have the whole loot box thing that just happened. Like, for instance, Belgium has outlawed paid loot boxes, but CS:GO was
Oh
the
yeah.
first one to really start shining the light on it. And when was that? Like, that was like last year or 2 years ago, right? When they really started shutting it down, like case after
Yeah, yeah,
case.
yeah. Non-stop.
But so to get to the point, McSkillet was involved in a incident at Ashley Falls Elementary School in San Diego where he crashed into a gate that said Steam, did
I think
donuts
it was
around a
actually
field,
this year.
and he broke a window and then he left the premises. 30 minutes later, he went the wrong way on an off ramp at 100 miles an hour in his McLaren, which is a very expensive sports car if you do not know what a McLaren is, which he obviously bought with the revenue that he gained from, from doing this,
Yeah.
from making YouTube videos and content about this stuff. Um, he drove it 100 miles an hour head on into an SUV, killing the two passengers, a mother and her 12-year-old daughter. That shit, that's where I got really pissed off. I was actually streaming when we found this shit out, and I went on a little rant there, and I'll just go on a quick little rant here. And Rashawn, if you want to butt in, cut me off, do whatever you gotta do to like,
Of course, of
yeah, yeah.
course.
This is horseshit, right? Like, if you are depressed, I've been depressed. Okay, I've been fully fucking depressed. I've had all those, suicidal thoughts, whatever you say, when things aren't going your way. Okay, and you work your
Yeah.
way to get better. You work your way to do other things. What the fuck goes through your head that you are going to drive your car the wrong way and kill innocent people like this? Okay, there is no
Hmm.
reason for this to ever occur. Now, like, Granted,
It's just
this is
it's
like,
making.
ugh.
Oh no, keep.
No, it's frustrating, man. It's really frustrating because he he's an 18-year-old kid. It's like he got his toys taken away. Instead of throwing a temper
Yeah.
tantrum where you just like hit a wall or like scream at your parents, you drive your $500,000 car into two innocent civilians who die. Okay, the mother was
It's just
43 years old and the daughter was 12 years old. The daughter's 12 years old. Okay, that means that she was either starting seventh grade or sixth grade. Okay, that's middle school.
hmm.
Do you think that either of these thought that that would happen?
Of
No.
course not. And it's just like one of the things that it's making me think. I'm thinking two things right now with it actually. It's just like one, it makes me wonder if he just took that like whole concept of just because I know when I like given I'm not even that old, like I'm only 21, but given when I was in the fresh youth of high school years or something, whatever, like I had this kind of like strange invincibility complex, I suppose. Like given I've had like family members who have passed, I've had friends who have passed, and like it shook me momentarily, but still I felt like nothing could hurt me. Like I felt like no, it won't happen to me. I won't get sick. I won't suddenly die. I won't anything. Like I thought that I would just be invincible, and I'm wondering if he just let that go too far and just took it to the extreme, you know? Like he felt like he could just do what he wanted, maybe through like a lack of his parents not like enforcing the rules
And
properly or
that's
parenting
that's
him
the
all the way or
tough
teaching him
thing.
responsibility. Yeah.
That's the tough thing about this. Like, I mean, it's a double-edged sword when it comes to being able to make it big on something like YouTube and Twitch. You have these 16, 17, 18-year-old people who are making millions of dollars,
Right.
right? Millions of dollars. And they haven't fully developed yet. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I haven't fully developed. I'm 21 years old, like you. You know, if I was a millionaire, I would have to have some advisement on what to do here. You know, and that's the
Oh,
thing
of
is, he
course.
probably made so much money that he could have, if he was smart, he could have put some of this money away in case
Yeah,
of
he
a
should have,
crash.
honestly.
He should have, but he didn't because he was probably just like, I have all this money. Like, for instance, he bought a McLaren. He probably bought a house. You know, like all this stuff that is just like, he wasn't thinking about future. He was just thinking about the now. And I mean, I am the type who just thinks day to day. Like, I don't like thinking about the future. I like to just chill out in the now. But at the same time, like for this, you know, when you have that much money, you shouldn't just be like, okay, well, I have this much money right now. Let's see how fast I can blow it because I'm going to get more in the future. Like, you got to be careful. You got to be
Yeah,
financially sound and just like realize that this shit isn't going to last forever.
and I'm wondering if it was just like maybe it's because he's so young that just led him to make so many of these mistakes up until like that critical moment. Because it's like, as you know, like science, according to whatever sort of sciencing that I learned in high school, like we aren't able to make entirely thoughtful, rational decisions until we're past like 21 due to like I think it's like our frontal lobe not being fully developed, which is like responsible for decision making. So I'm wondering if it's just like if maybe this would have went down differently if he was older per se, something along those lines. But then it's also I still just yeah I call into question just wondering if it's like maybe he just accumulated so much wealth at this point to where he kind of like I don't want to say surpassed. That makes it sound like he's like better than them, but like he just overruled his parents. Like he got that money, he bought the McLaren, he bought himself a house, and he just thought like I'm on the top of the world. Like I'm still like high school age. Like I'm away from my parents. Like I'm doing what I want. I'm doing whatever.
Yeah.
And he just kind of felt like he had this like he probably felt like he was on like another level. Like how some celebrities, for example, they'll get so high up there, they'll have so much wealth to where they'll just blow it on like things like drugs and parties and things because they feel like I'm so far up here, I'm so far elevated, to where it's just like I feel like nothing can touch me. And then
Oh,
there's just
definitely.
that crash where everything goes bad. Like everything just goes south entirely.
And then the other
So
the
it's
other
just
thing to think about there is like, if he was suicidal, if he was depressed and suicidal about this stuff, what went through? Of course, we're never gonna know. I mean, we're never really gonna know. There's always gonna be speculation, but we're not gonna actually know the reason. Like, what went through his head that made him think like, I mean, like you said, maybe he thought he was invincible and he was just gonna do all this stuff and come out fine, or
Yeah.
maybe he knew he was gonna die and he just went. I mean, there's
Mhm.
no video footage of how the accident took place. Obviously, there's got to be people who watched it. So
Oh
but
yeah.
we don't know, like, if he targeted a specific car, if he was just weaving in and out of traffic and then just struck one. Like, it's just
And
it's shit. Oh man.
I'm actually like I've been just browsing here and I found like a couple threads where it's just like there are people who are they're not really reading into this or thinking about it like how we are currently, and they're just going off of like I guess like the blatant obvious things. Like there's a guy who is trying to use McSkillet's death as like a call to suicide awareness, which I guess it's good because it's just like yeah, take care of your friends, take care of your family, check up on anybody. I guess like you never know what anybody's going through,
Hmm.
but they're using this as a call to arms to spread the message, but it makes me wonder why they're not reading it more into it because it's like given yeah suicide is an aspect of this, but it seems like there's a degree of extremity that needs to be addressed rather than it just being like a simple cut and dry like attempted
Yeah.
well not attempted like a suicide case, you know. It seems like there's a lot more substance to it that needs to be addressed,
Oh,
and it's
definitely.
just like I'm wondering what it could be because it's just like there's too many things like this happening to where it's just people can't seem to control themselves, and then they go and do something rash where people, innocent bystanders, end up feeling the repercussions of it.
Hmm.
And it's just like I'm wondering if it's just going to be a thing that will always come down to parents because it's like let's face it, like your parents they influence your upbringing, but not so much of the point to where they can either let you entirely loose or they can turn you into like some sort of crazy lost cause because no matter what, like no matter what age, you're still to some degree like capable of making your own decisions and responsible for your decisions.
Yeah.
So it's just I'm wondering if something like this can ever be potentially stopped or solved or anything like that, because it's going to end up coming back nonstop, and it's just going to keep happening. It's going to come back nonstop and shedding like a negative light on games and the internet and our favorite hobbies. And I'm scared that something's going to happen to where maybe enough people will band together and their games will start having like I don't know if I'm using this word properly, like sanctions imposed on them and whatnot,
Yeah.
like to the point to where us who are we're for the most part rational beings who are capable of making sound decisions, safe decisions, things like that.
Yeah,
I'm scared of that
I mean,
potentially happening.
that honestly leads to the next thing that happens. So this happens um on Sunday once again. This was breaking after what happened with McSkillet. Um, there was a shooting at a Madden championship. So once again, we've talked about this before. How esports is growing. It is very, 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 very. Oh, also should correct. The accident took place on Thursday. I thought it was Sunday. I got my dates wrong. I just saw that. So it was on Thursday, but everything has kind of like been developing. Uh, with the most developments happening on Sunday. So 3 days, three, I guess 3 full days, possibly four, separated McSkillet with the Jacksonville shooting. And what happened there was when it first happened. So this stuff was all streamed on live on like Twitch and such. Um, so essentially, because esports is growing so fast, there's a lot of leagues that probably you, if you don't follow esports or don't even follow video games, don't know about. Like for instance, the NFL has like actually partnered esports teams. Same thing with the NBA. Like the Washington Wizards actually have an esports affiliate. Same thing with the New York Knicks, Atlanta Hawks, whatever NBA team, for instance. Madden is the football equivalent for the video game. Of you know of sorry, Madden is the video game equivalent of football, NFL. Okay. Um. So on Sunday in Jacksonville, Florida, there was a tournament going on where these national competitors were gathering and competing. Um, there was a shooting. 2 people died. 10 were injured by the gunshots, and one was injured trying to escape. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the suspect was a 24-year-old competitor by the name of David Katz. He had actually won competitions before, specifically one in Buffalo, where he was actually awarded the championship by one of the Bills players. Um, he,
I think I remember you talking to me about that too. Now that I think about it, back then, I'm
yeah,
almost certain like you and I talked about that.
and I mean, like,
Yeah.
that's the thing is, like, this guy, um, early reports were it was just a random attack. But the
Mm.
more that's been dug into it and the more that's been seen, it turns out that he actually specifically targeted um, not only the event,
It
but
was also against
at
like
least
rival.
one
Yeah.
of the two. There's actually a clip. I do not recommend watching it at all. Honestly, I've watched it and I don't want to watch it again. Um,
Yeah,
where
I couldn't actually throw it.
you could see the victim, one of the victims, actually moments before the gunshots went off. There is a laser sight on his chest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, although the motive is unclear, it is assumed that he got knocked out and was mad, um, and came back and shot up the place because he lost. Um, this one is just another kind of thing where I have a fear that it's going to turn into video games and violence type thing,
Yeah.
because you have it's literally professional. Like, let's not be, let's not get into the nitty-gritty stuff like that. It is, at this point in time, gaming is a professional, you know occupation. You have your professional players, literally like a professional sports player. Okay. um like, at the same time, all these professional places, they don't have the type of security that other professional events do. On
Right.
top of the fact that obviously some of these guys still do other jobs, because they may not win as much as someone's being paid in the NFL or NBA or something. Um, so it's I think the number one takeaway from this one is, like, what's going to happen here about um
Just
like video games and
gaming,
violence.
games, professionalism, gaming's concerning like violent. Yeah, see that's exactly the issue because there, it's probably since like the first console came out, like there have always been that parent that they'll try and find something wrong with games. They'll say like, it's making my child dumb. It's making my child lose like interest in the real world. He doesn't go outside. He doesn't play sports or anything like that. And it's like now it's like we're at like the very fresh beginning point to it. It's like games have a potential to lose that stigma behind them. Like, given there's always going to be those unique cases where people take it too far. Let's be real, we all do it from here to there, but there's some people who take it too far. It's we're at the point where it's like the mainstream is starting to accept games because the mainstream are starting to play more games. Like with sports games constantly growing more and more in popularity, more sports fans coming about, they're becoming more popular. Now we even, like how JT said before, we have people who are quite literally wearing team jerseys custom tailored for them to play as like an esports team.
Yeah,
And
they
it's like it's
literally
nice
have
to,
their uniform.
yeah, and it's nice to see that happening, but it sucks because you have guys like this who are taking us like 50 steps back because they can't seem to control their ego. And it's like I'm looking right now at an article in CNN that says in 2017, let's see, where was it? In an interview after his tournament win in 2017 with former Buffalo Bills player Steve Tasker, Katz talked about his prowess. Like he was showing off, saying he's the best. And like Katz had said, I think personally I'm one of the better players. So it's like with him saying that, I'm wondering if it's just like he thought that he had something to uphold with this. Like he thought that this title was his like life's work, because there's some people who that's all they have. They immerse themselves in one thing and that's all they have and that's all they focus on, and they can't seem to get rid of that, you know? It's like, or they
Yeah.
don't want to get rid of that rather. So it's like I'm wondering if this was something of the ego that needs to be addressed, like a mental health issue that just needs to be addressed regardless,
Well,
or
so
if
he has
this is going
history.
to
So
say
that's the
again.
thing. He has mental health history. Like
Okay, okay.
he was hospitalized twice. He purchased the guns legally. But he does have a history of mental illness. Specifically, his parents argued how to treat it and never agreed.
Hmm.
And um, it's like it just kind of once again. I hope if anything, this kind of talks about gun control. Like this makes the gun control topic a little
Oh yeah.
heavier because this is another case of someone with some mental health issues in the past getting their hands on a firearm. And
It
like he purchased, I think he had two weapons, and I mean he got them all legally, so it's just like
it seems like it's just going to be one of those things that just continues to get deflected, because no matter what, there will be people out there who refuse to acknowledge like the actual real issues. Like it should be a mental health thing, it should be a gun control thing more than anything for sure, because this could have easily been avoided. But it's always going to be redirected to gaming because that's the most easiest one, and where there's like the most minority of people that are affected. Like it's one of those things where it's like it's not deemed necessary by enough people for it to not be something that's like that some for it to be something that's immune, because
yeah,
it's like with gun control, I can't even name how many videos I've watched where it's like you got politicians, you got random people, just people making like social science videos of them going to a gun show to where there's vendors who have, I guess, have the appropriate vending licenses, but they're not like certified resellers or anything like that. They're just average people with a vending license setting up at these gun shows. And there's videos where the people will literally say like, "Oh man, I'm interested in this one. How much is it?" They'll tell them how much it is. They'll be like, "Oh, do you need to see my ID? Do you need to screen me or something?" And that all as like every time I've seen it, the vendor will just say, "Nope, you're all good. Just money in hand. You're all set. You're all good to go." And that's it. No sort of mental health screening. No sort of extensive anything. Because it's like countries. Let's see. So if I remember right, I'm gonna look up right now South Korean gun control laws, because I know that they're pretty strict and they have a very, very, very like rigorous kind of program towards like, and this is a lot to read through right now, so I'm gonna paraphrase it to the best of my ability. I'm sorry if there's any inaccuracies, but for the most part, it's like they have to undergo like a mental testing, they have to undergo like a competency testing, and then like after all like the rigorous testing that they've received, like the strict rules that they have in place, even then they're not allowed to really personally keep the weapons from what I've read. They're not allowed to actually have them in their home. Like said weapons are usually locked up at like a police armory or somewhere central and public, to where it's like they don't have actual physical possession of their firearms at all times. Like they have to rent them out or check them out. All guns are ID'd appropriately to where they can be traced if something were to happen, God
yeah,
forbid. But it's to the point here to where it's just like I'm pretty sure if I honestly wanted to, if I really truly tried, I could probably find myself an untagged, unidentified gun and just have some sort of street vendor or gun show vendor sell it to me without an issue.
yeah,
And I guess that's not to knock them, because I'm sure some of them they try and exercise good practice, but it's not extensive enough for what is essentially a weapon. Not even essentially for what is a weapon meant to kill, regardless of the fact. In essence, guns are just they're meant to kill and that's all they do. So they should be handled with the utmost care because of the things that they can cause.
yeah,
And we've if you're an American citizen or if you're just attentive to the news, you've seen without a doubt many of the shootings that could have been avoided if we had stricter control throughout this country, but haven't because it's not being addressed. Like I'm thinking about how there was a clip that I had saw to where there were even hunters going like they were for gun control. They were pro gun control with things like automatic weapons, things with like proper screening, things with people only needing firearms due to necessity.
Yeah.
Because like they're responsible gun control difficulties, and we're back.
I'll
In
cut
my
that.
opinion, if you consider yourself a responsible gun owner, you wouldn't have any issue with safer gun laws or heavily enforced gun laws because you yourself are doing it right. And as long as you continue to follow the law, like how many people claim they do, there shouldn't be a problem, especially if it's to minimize like the needless fatalities that we see like every month. Every month it's just there's been something every month just about that happens.
Yeah,
And it doesn't
seriously.
seem like there's any need for it to go on anymore. That's just I don't know. That's my mini spiel because I was gonna keep going, but I'm gonna chop myself short at that point for now.
Uh, I mean, it's a grim way to end the podcast, but we should just. Well, think we should just do our outro here.
Great. This has been a very, very sleepy JT and a relatively spaced out Rashawn, bringing you episode 4 of the Closed Circuit Podcast. And like always, we want to know what you guys think about what we covered today. Like, what do you guys think about? And it's probably a bad idea. Probably shouldn't really ask this because this usually goes bad. What do you guys think about gun control in the States? What do you guys think needs to be done to avoid things like this? Got any opinions on the Jacksonville shooting or any other sort of violent event that's happened in this country? Let us know in the comments. Maybe shoot us an email, things of that nature. And for now, bid you adieu.
Goodbye.